America was with Trump when he said he wanted to deport the worst of the worst. I mean, almost all Americans say, yes, if somebody's a criminal, particularly a violent criminal, send them home, get them out of our country. Everybody agrees with that. But they seem to have morphed from the worst of the worst to anybody who was ever illegal in the United States, even if they came here 20 years ago and have been, working illegally ever since then. It's still illegal, but it is not, a lot of people don't think it's worth the aggressive tactics. In other words, treating everybody like they were a gang member or everybody like they were a drug dealer is just not, it just seems a little bit out of proportion. And I think that's where they're losing the public right now. And if I were them, I get myself out of this as quickly as possible.
What's happening in Minneapolis and other cities around the country is not law and order, it's thuggery. Thuggery. That is why we were so intent on splitting off the Homeland Security bill from the rest of the funding bill so we could focus on it, so we could rein in ICE, and end the violence. What Democrats want is exceedingly reasonable. We need to end roving patrols. That means arrest warrants and ending racial profiling. Second, we need real accountability, having ICE abide by the same rules as local police do, including independent investigations of ICE. And third, masks need to come off, cameras need to stay on, officers need visible ID, no secret police. These changes are as common sense as it gets. There's nothing insane, as some Republicans think, asking federal agents to respect the Fourth Amendment. It does not criminalize law enforcement to ask them to identify themselves and follow the same basic code as other law enforcement.
We had a bipartisan agreement on the Homeland Security Appropriations Bill that included funding for de-escalation training for Immigration and Customs Enforcement, as well as both body cams for ICE officers. But any conversation, Mr. President, has to include a discussion of how to make it safer for our federal law enforcement agents to effectively carry out their duties. We need to address not only issues like increased training for ICE officers, but things like preventing the constant harassment and worse that officers have faced for simply trying to do their jobs.
And right now, there's a lot of sympathy for the protesters and not for the ICE agents. So again, because of that issue is playing against the Republicans right now and may carry over until November. But of course, remember, memories are short in politics. So who knows if it'll be a live issue in October or November. If they pull back ICE and pull back this sort of radical deportation plan, by the time we get to October or November, it may not be an issue anymore. And I think that that's what they're realizing.
Shut it down! Shut it down! Shut it down! We want ICE off our streets. No justice, no peace. We want ICE off our streets.
The ruling class fears anyone who dares to reject exploitation for resources and labor.
Shut it down! Shut it down!
Good afternoon, everyone. And the only real question that needs to be answered right now is, when will Republicans have enough with the extremism and the cruelty and the chaos and the corruption that has failed the American people?